This is Ed, and welcome to this very special edition of Global Business News TV talk show featuring the one and only Ron Cooper. And we're going to learn about the Cooper culture. And what does this mean? Well, it means that there's a way of thinking, there's a way of behaving, there's a way of helping people achieve something that they perhaps thought they couldn't get there. Ron Cooper is an expert, proven expert in the development of mental prep and thinking things through from concept to execution, depending upon the individual's situation. Welcome, Ron Cooper. Did I say that okay?
No, we're doing fine, Ed. Thank you. And yes, culture. Our company name is Cooper Culture, with the emphasis on culture, the environment, and do we have a very healthy, conducive comment our culture to team partnership, teamwork, and so forth. And a lot of that has to do with the mindset, and it is, I believe, a function of senior leadership. They are the ones who create the culture. And it is one thing to say we have, and on our walls we have different plaques and so forth, and those kind of things don't necessarily govern day-to-day activity. But I will say, Ed, in our context, that we demonstrate how we care through our personal interaction with people. That is the essence of what a workplace and home culture is.
So I was reading part of your LinkedIn earlier today in prep for this, and and when you were involved in the Navy at a top level, um, a theme kept coming up in the words that I was reading about you mentally conceive, and then find a way to execute a problem solving technique depending on whatever it is that's your specialty, your superpower, as well. As I was reading it, and I was interpreting what I was reading. Now that's your superpower of conceiving how to solve a problem and then finding a way and connecting the dots and getting buy-in.
Yes, and I'll say, when you mentioned Navy, I did contract work for the Navy, but I'm 22 years Air Force, so I'm an Air Force person working for the Navy, or was working for the Navy. And but a lot of that, Ed, is a mindset that no matter what challenge we have, our mindset is we will think into it, think through it. There's no challenge too large for us to overcome. Now, I would hope that your listeners, your viewers, don't think of that as a braggadocious statement, but it is a statement of confidence that with enough thinking and we're surrounded by the right people, we will devise a solution to whatever life encounter we're encountering. And I believe in the together term, together as a team, we will overcome whatever challenges we have. But that is a matter, I believe, of leadership. If we have a lasting team, the leader is going to create a culture where together we will. And I know, as just a general axiom, if you want to go fast, go by yourself. But if you want to go far, you need a team to do that. And so the teamwork is what we need to create that kind of a culture. And it's a matter of the team being formally fitted together, meaning my strengths complement your weaknesses and your strengths complement my weaknesses. I know that I can turn to you, Ed, and say, Ed, I'm not good at this particular trait. Can you help me? When we have those kind of teams, we're going to function very well together.
So it's adapt. I'm looking at your list that you sent me. Adapting to people. Your past does not define you. Your resolve to live for your future does.
Yes, and of course, there are some of us who, and I include us in this, who in an earlier life we had whatever it is we're challenged with. And I will tell you that, very briefly for your listeners, in an earlier life, I was very, very low in confidence. I did not have any assurance because of, I speak on the term words matter. various things were said to and about me, and perhaps I interpreted it wrong, but I did interpret it that, well, maybe I did not know because I'm incapable of learning. So, for nearly 2 decades of my life, I thought that maybe I'm mentally insufficient, not capable of learning. And through various, that's really four men who unofficially mentored me and helped me through some low parts of my life. But I go through that very quickly. I had to say that, yep, that was my past. And so I leveraged what happened in my past to develop my future. In other words, I'm not stuck on the past. I'm not a victim of my past. I recognize that I was who I was in the past, and I use the term, another V term, victor, over. And so because of four men then, and Marty, my wife of, as we're recording it now, 57 years, has helped me through and is helping me through a very difficult past. But when we have a determination to get beyond, we will.
Thank you for that. Uh, we have a lot to go through today in a short time, and I want the audience to get ready and buckle up. So if you'd like to use my screen share, it's open for that.
Great. Thank you, Ed. And what I'm going to do for your listeners is talk about a Top Gun mindset. And again, as we've discussed just a little bit, mindset is, I believe, an attitude. It is what is largely defining a person. But just a little bit more about the term Top Gun. I think most of your listeners are at least familiar with that term. And maybe something comes to mind. Any of these bullet points might come to mind when they think of Top Gun. And I will say that one of the things about the Top Gun mindset, and this is part of my term, but it does involve fast moving fighter aircraft and what the culture is in which many of us were functioning. And it is the last one to me is the most operative, the camaraderie or the teamwork that is involved. And Top Gun is necessarily fast moving, but we are a fun loving bunch, and very little keeps us down, I would say. But that's all a part of a mindset. And again, a mindset from my perspective is some people may think of it as a branding statement. And maybe from this presentation, Ed, people knowing you and so forth, maybe something to the effect of, when you think of Ed Cohen, what do you think of? What comes to mind? And people have various thoughts, and I would certainly think everything about that is positive, but it is a defining statement of our values, the way we think, and so forth. That, to me, is largely what a mindset is. And then, so what is a Top Gun mindset? And so, Ed, as you and I were talking at the beginning of this presentation, in the beginning of my life, I was not at all confident in the various reasons for that, but I was very uncertain about myself, my mental ability, and so forth. But through four men then, and Marty, my wife now, I am much more confident now than I was in the past. And I hope that as people would recognize that as a healthy confidence and not braggadocious. But we can be assertive, and I do believe that most of us with a Top Gun mindset are patriotic, and I applaud you for the flag that you have in the background. And that's largely who we are, patriotic. We do want to be leaders. And so, with all of that, Ed, that's a part of it. But then the last three, I do expect to win. I will overcome and I will return. That's all a part of a Top Gun mindset. And I will say that to your viewers, I am a Vietnam era F4 pilot. I was in Vietnam for nearly 18 months. I have 300 combat missions. In the context of the attitude, the mindset, I had the mindset that you will not shoot me down. And in the unlikely event you do shoot me down, I will parachute to safety. And when I parachute to safety, you will not find me. You will not captivate me. In the unlikely event you do, I will overcome whatever is in store with the point of captivity, but I will return. That was my attitude about it. And I think many fighter pilots have that type of attitude. And again, we may think, some people may think of that as braggadocious. However, I do think of that as a very assertive, positive mindset. And so, how might we develop a Top Gun mindset, or how would we overcome anything of the past? And I will say, Ed, first and foremost, surround yourself with those who do have a Top Gun mindset. None of the four men of whom I referenced earlier were of the Top Gun. I mean, they were not military. They didn't have any aviation experience, but they were all of a very positive, assertive mindset. They did function as a mentor to me, even though they were not formally assigned that. And then be in the presence of those who are where you want to be in life. And that is socio-economically. And those who are making the money that you would like to have, those who have the, I would say, fulfillment in life, to be with those kind of people. In that last bullet, my father-in-law, Marty's father, always said to me, "Don't you ever say you cannot." He was okay with me to say, "I don't want to," but never say I cannot. And what that was referring to, Ed, is um, Henry Ford coined the expression, whether you think you can or you think you can't, you're right. And so if we have the mindset that I cannot, we won't, because we are already self-defeated. And so many of us with the Top Gun mindset are of the type that I will somehow, some way, I will overcome, I will do, I will achieve the greater good. And so that might mean I'm going to need to spend a lot of time studying. That might mean I'm going to have to do something very different from what I'm doing at the moment. There are any number of things that could involve, but Ed, anything that represents change is going to put us into a maybe operating outside of our comfort zone. But when we are with those who believe in us, and I'll go into another little bit right here. For me, four of the most powerful words in the English language are "I believe in you." In the four men that I've mentioned during this session, did not, to the best of my recollection, never use those four words. However, with the amount of time they spent with me and the amount of time they were willing to interact with me, I just know they did believe in me. And so I would say to our listeners that as you choose to invest in people, they will know whether or not you believe in them. And by believing in people, you are investing in their lives, and by investing in their lives, you can significantly increase their confidence level. And I will say to the leaders who are with us right now, there are people in your organization, almost undoubtedly, who are not very confident, and they're not necessarily going to tell you they are not, because they first have to know you care. And and then in that context, when they know we care, they want to be heard, but they first want to know that you want to listen to them. So we as leaders need to have to develop that culture where we have that culture where it is one that I do care about you, and I do believe, and I strongly advocate that we in the workplace want to develop a culture where we want to help you at home. I'm not going to ever demand that I do, but I know there's a continuum between home and work. If anything's not working right at home, there's a chance you're going to carry that into work. At least the mindset, you won't be able to perform quite as well at work if something is happening there. And the converse, if I don't create a good work environment, you're likely going to take that home. And so it's in that context, Ed, where I say we have a continuum between home and work. That is the culture that I'm advocating we stimulate and we bring about in our home place, in our work location. And when we have that type of, again, Top Gun mindset, we're going to have people with us who are willing to perform. They will perform, and they're going to do quite well. And so we're helping people to perform at their very best. Ed, just very briefly, that is my thought of the Top Gun mindset.
That is a really tour de force, and thank you very much. So I've got a couple of comments and questions, and but totally related to what you were just saying. First of all, let me ask: were you based when you're in area? Were you based on a carrier?
No, I was not Navy. Only the Navy was based on a carrier or some type of Air Force liaison. I was stationed always on the ground. And so, very briefly, I was stationed at Udorn Royal Thai Air Base and then Ubon Royal Thai Air Base in Thailand. But I flew missions over North Vietnam, what we called Route Pack 1 through 6, and I was there during the Linebacker 1 and Linebacker 2 bombing campaigns, for those who might know of that.
Okay, let me ask you a question. You had mentioned and strongly mentioned that uh, you need people need to imagine themselves by being in the company as much as possible, being in the company of the kind of person you would like to become. And you say that I'm interpreting that to mean learn, uh, well, put yourself at risk, number one, but learn from others who you think you want to emulate behavior, thinking, posture, appearance, everything.
That's what it's all about, Ed. That let's just say that I want to be making more money than what I am, and I'm not. I have no attempt to overemphasize money, but money is very close to being like oxygen. We have to have it. But I do want a self assurance that I want to be fulfilled at what I'm doing. I want to be totally utilized in the workplace, and I want to be a leader. And so, what I want to do is be in the presence of those who are what I would like to be, what I hope to be. In other words, it may be an income level, it may be a person who is very confident. I can tell you, each of the four men that helped mentor me over a very low point in my life. One was my grandfather. He was a third grade dropout, a very silent type person, very informal, but he was always willing to talk with me. His son, my uncle, was as gregarious as my grandfather was, very silent. But he and I chose to spend time together, and as awkward even as I was then, he was willing to spend time with me. But I know that he and my grandfather were very successful farmers. So my early life was on the farm. Following that was my high school football coach, who was very successful, won state titles and so forth. He had a way of motivating people, and I just enjoyed being in his presence. I learned how to do that. And then my father-in-law, who was, he made the comment, Ron, I really appreciate the way we are able to think well together. He was a hands-on person, meaning he was a lot of do-it-yourself, but we would spend hours planning events before we ever started slinging a hammer or digging. We would always think through it first. And he told me, Ron, I really appreciate the way you can help me think through things. And that helped me overcome a very low opinion of my mental ability. Ed, those are the kind of people that I chose to be around. They accepted me. And when we are in the presence of those people, we will become like them. And I will tell you that they helped me overcome an attitude of I have virtually no confidence at all, to where I hope now I have what I consider a healthy self confidence.
So you got all that before you started flying jets.
I did, but I will tell you, Ed, one of the things that helped solidify all of that was, and part of my story is, as I was with my father-in-law and I was then dating Marty, my current wife, I asked him if I could marry his daughter. And at the time, I was wondering, and I had applied to the Air Force for pilot training, and I'm thinking, well, I don't know. All I can do is hope. And just before we got married, I was accepted into the Air Force, and that was a major, major revelation, a turning event in my life. And then once I started flying, Ed, many people said I was born to fly. And so that became it's almost a trite expression, but it was a dream come true. And I'm living the life that I believe I was destined to, but it took me a while to get there. And so through all of that, the process was I overcame a very low mental health situation to where I became perhaps I am who I am today.
That's a great story. Uh, so, uh, so I want to go deeper with you, and I have some notes here, but my phone just went dark. Okay, there we go. Number 5 on your list is uh, not in the order of importance, just a long list. Confidence without being arrogant or cocky.
Yes, and I will tell you, Ed, what I'm referring to there is, in my definition, confidence is about you. Arrogance is about me. When I am in conversation with you and the conversation is about you, I want to speak with a confident resolve to where I'm developing credibility with you that you know what I'm talking about. If I go so far as to now start edifying myself, that to me is becoming braggadocious. That is becoming arrogant, where now I'm trying to promote myself. That's my definition, Ed. And if I keep it at the level where I believe very confidently I have abilities to help you get to where you want to be, to help you become who you want to be, it's all about you, but you have confidence in me. And I will tell you, from my perspective, there's virtually no difference if you're talking with a physician and you're going to make a determination of what physician will operate on you. You want that physician to have the confidence that, yep, I can do this and I know exactly how to get you to where you want to be. That is my definition of confidence versus arrogance.
Let's talk about 6 and 7 here, critical thinking. What is it? And fostering critical thinking. So this ties in with exactly what you were just talking about.
It does. And various people have their definitions of critical thinking. For me, in the context of that topic, critical thinking is assessing every fact and factor involved in making an informed decision. This is my definition. But as we go through critical thinking, and Marty and I right now are involved in 2 life situations where we are thinking into and want to make a very confident decision about various things we're doing, but we're thinking into the various facts and factors that are involved in the decision we want to make. We will assess the potential outcome of various decisions, but we will have thought through all of this. That, quite honestly, is from my perspective, Ed, is the essence of critical thinking. And I will tell you, in flight, when we are have a mission to accomplish and we are thinking about the target area, I spend literally hours in thinking through what my mission is, where the adversary is, what would happen if, and I'm continuously doing a what if analysis. I want to encourage all of our listeners and leaders to always go through a what if analysis. And as we go through a what if analysis, we will have thought through many of the things that could happen. And I'm not certainly not a fortune teller or anything like that. However, when we go through a what if analysis, we can say, all right, I've thought through the majority of this and I know pretty much how I'm going to react. The facts and factors leading up to it may have changed slightly, but that's a lot of what I'm talking about of critical thinking.
So how do you foster? Foster means encourage or promote or set it up to happen.
Yes. And so when I work with people, I frequently tell them this is my thought process, and it is a process, how I arrived at whatever decision I made. And so I will work with people to tell them what my thought process was. And if the facts or factors change, I may change, and I have changed my decision, but I've worked with people to let them know what my thought process was to arrive at whatever decision I made. And so there's some people who would say, well, yeah, thank you for working me through the thought process because I wasn't even sure how to think that. We are mentoring several people right now, one of whom said very recently, I need to be able to think critically about what I explained to this person. And it had to do with uh, uh, the upcoming his future and in thinking into the various things. And he is largely somewhat of an impulsive thinker. And he's in the now part, but we have to necessarily think as far into the future as we can. So when you foster critical thinking, I do believe it is taking the time to explain to the person you're investing in how you approach the thought process and you help them think something in the way that you're thinking. That's how I view the term fostering.
Thank you. So let's go back to associating yourself with um, people who are um, in a position that you want to aspire to be in, or you think you're not there yet, but you need to grow some. So um, I'm I'm not pausing because I can't think of what to say. I just want to say it correctly. So
Sure.
how do you just ask people, hey, can I hang out with you? Can we get a cup of coffee? Can we go for a walk?
I do, Ed. And the four men, as an example, I would be with them and my grandfather. I stayed at their house and I asked my grandfather a lot of questions. Whenever I was with my uncle, I was then, as I was young, but I was known as his shadow. I was always with him wherever he was during the summertime, primarily when I'm not in school. When I wasn't in school then, but I was always with him. I was his shadow. In my high school football coach, I spent as much time with him as I possibly could, knowing that he's working with other players. But I just clung to a lot of what he said, and the same thing with my father-in-law. Now, I do encourage people to ask that if they, oh, let's just say, live in a home that you would like to live in, if they have whatever you consider as time freedom, financial freedom, a freedom of mind, a freedom of thinking, whatever it is you think that you admire in them, I encourage them. How did you do that? How did you reach that? Many of us appreciate those kind of questions because, I mean, quite honestly, the question is it's a statement of admiration. I admire whatever it is you have, and I want to learn how to be at that state of mind. So I do, and I will tell you, Ed, there was a time in my life I would never ask questions. I am a self-described now incurably curious person, but in the context of relationships and be let's say partner with those who are socioeconomically where you want to be, I ask them questions, and if they are willing to respond to me and if they're willing to help me understand, those are the kind of people who I consider they're willing to invest in my life. And so I want to spend as much time with them as they are willing to spend with me. So many times I do ask them, would you mind if we spend whatever time together so I can learn more from you?
So this was high school time?
It was well, part of that was in high school, but then it went into college. I was in my early 20s, Ed, until I felt that I was starting to develop a healthy mental attitude. But to a degree, I feel like I wasted the first 2 decades of my life because I had a very, very low self-esteem. I did not believe I was capable of learning. I was socially awkward. It took me 18 months to ask Marty, my wife, for a date, and so I didn't want to be rejected one more time. So that your listeners may have just a little bit of a concept of just how awkward I was at the time, and my self confidence was pretty well at the bottom.
So let's take all this now and bring it into the into a client office, and we're talking about training, right? Leadership thinking as well as training and implementation.
Yes. And so what I would do is frequently speak with leaders, and I will ask them, in our state of Maryland right now, we are having some, I'm going to say, some challenges with budget deficits and taxation and so forth. And so, how are businesses responding to that environment? And then, when I engage in conversation with those who choose to engage, I can learn from them various aspects of their company. I have to gain their confidence that I'm not going to use anything against them, but I am learning. I do want to learn how leaders are coping with what their thoughts are about the economic environment of the state of Maryland in which companies operate. And so, as I engage in conversation with these leaders, I am able to determine what the challenges are having. Some of the challenges are we are having a high turnover rate, and people are not staying here. I'm having a problem finding and keeping quality people. So I want to ask a little bit further about that. What is it you see that maybe a reason from your perspective you're not able to retain quality people? And so I am about attracting and retaining quality people. And some of that has to do with, a lot of it has to do with a culture. And some people are uncertain why, but I will tell you, Ed, and this could go into a much longer conversation in the context of our past. And you alluded to that a little bit earlier with a question. There are some of us who are carrying forward parts of our past, and that's an uncertainty, and we will carry that into the workplace. And then there are some of us who are carrying resentment from maybe family or wherever, and we carry that into the workplace. And so and when we have that type of a mindset, we're not going to perform as well as we otherwise could if I had the outlet to where I can. You and I have discussed this before. Can I discuss with you in a psychologically safe space some of the challenges I have? Because if I'm able to work with those who care, I'm going to perform much better. So, Ed, that's a kind of a long response to I want to learn what you think are the various challenges you're having in your organization. And I will tell you, sometimes the challenges or the effect of those challenges are invisible. That it takes some uncovering to get to the root of it.
So it's about resolving conflict.
It is, and we need to be very confident that we can resolve conflict without being combative or argumentative. And many people in our organizations, families have conflict, and they don't want to divulge what it is. And quite honestly, some family cultures are such that we don't talk about it. Just get over yourself. And but there's some people who need to speak of whatever it is that's on their mind. But I don't know that I have the freedom to do that because I may put myself or my job at risk. And so all of these kind of things are involved, Ed, in developing a very healthy culture.
Failing, failure, I've had them. And um, I'm certainly old enough now to know that there's a history and changing, just like you were talking earlier about reframing and developing a new way of thinking, a new application of something that you, anybody used to apply to a conflict or a problem and apparently did it wrong. There was a failure that resulted, or a disappointment, or a lost piece of business, or a lost marriage, or so recovering from failures. And it, is it too simplistic for me just to say to recover from failure, you just put your head down and go forward and get a win and then get another win and get another win? And then
Well,
you stop thinking about it.
I think to some degree, yes, Ed, but I know there are some people who feel that, and I'm going to, I don't like to parse words, but failing and failure, I sometimes think that failure, some people equate that as I am a failure, whereas a failing, I had an event and it just didn't I did not achieve the results I had hoped for. It's used, the expression is used many times that Thomas Edison needed to 10,000 different attempts to perfect the light bulb. And he frequently says, I didn't fail 10,000 times. I just found 10,000 ways that would not work. But I'm going to keep at it until I achieve the desired end. And so, with that example, there are a lot of people who just need to be in the presence of those who say, you are not a failure. What you achieved, what you attempted to work, just didn't end up the way you wanted it to. So how do you correct from whatever it was that did not give you the desired results? And it's persistence, consistency. You just keep at it. And if you are pursuing something that is of a worthwhile goal and there's a greater good in it, surround yourself with people who will encourage you, maybe help you think into a different way to accomplish. Ed, that's what we're talking about is I will overcome. I will. And so that is an attitude, a mindset that there's no obstacle too large for me that I will overcome it because I'm in pursuit of the greater good of whatever it is. And so that's a lot of an attitude of a mindset of a Top Gun mindset.
Your point number 15 here on this wonderful list, developing a culture of failing forward. Is that what
Yes,
you're talking about?
that's exactly what I'm talking about, Ed. And yes, and what I want to do is create a culture, an environment as a leader. Then actually, I want to encourage failings because when we are developing innovative thought, well, it could be innovative products. We're going to experience failure. New innovation is not going to work every time. And so I like to encourage failings because when we do, they say, well, that didn't work. And so I'm not going to fault you for something that, well, we didn't achieve the desired end result, but we want to continue to fail forward. So, okay, whatever it was we attempted didn't work, didn't give us the desired results we're looking for, but how can we make that better? I would say every meeting, I hope to improve it on every meeting, the use of your time, that kind of thing. as we prepare proposals. Okay, did we make good use of our time? We can always do better. I believe people and processes can always be improved. So any failings of having fallen short of a desired goal, no, let's improve on it and let's make sure we get there. That is a mindset of we will overcome.
I see we have two or three more slides to go to, and we have limited time. So I'm going to stop talking and please go forward.
Well, just very briefly, Ed, for those listeners who would like what we're talking about and the culture of the what we represent, this is my contact information. You can contact me and know more about us through the website. You can contact me personally at the Ron at the Cooper Culture. Marty is my business manager or my admin assistant, and she is the one who keeps me organized. I am the kind of person who, without organization, I can be quote over the map with different things, but I welcome opportunities to speak publicly to your organization. I have workshops where we can help you develop the culture of which we're talking right now. I do conduct seminars where we do just this, and I can work either virtually or in person. But most leaders know, who are very successful, know it's not a one-time shot, but it's when we continuously work at it, then the it meaning we are continuously working toward perfecting ourselves. We're always getting better. There's always a better way to do whatever it is we're working. We're working on this together. And that's a very operative term to me. I will say very briefly, Ed, I do believe there are three organizations that have teamwork down to a fine art. That's law enforcement, firefighters, and the military. Frequently, any of those, each of those three organizations have situations where sometimes literally their lives depend on trusting and communicating well with and working with each other very well. So I welcome the opportunity to work with anyone and help you through what may be some of the invisible aspects of your company culture that sometimes requires just a little bit of work to peel the onion back, I call it, until we develop the root cause. And then we work with those root causes to get you to the company culture where people have the highest and greatest productivity because they are operating at their design potential. So that's a lot of what we're about, Ed.
Thank you so much for this. I'm looking at this list, and I keep getting motivated to ask you more questions. I'm looking at number 17. Leaders will frequently be misunderstood before they are understood.
Yes, and I've had to think about that a little bit. And frankly, what happens, Ed, and I will say just there was a conversation that occurred a few days ago that this person said, well, maybe you misread that. And so I said, well, no, I don't think I did misread it. And I was able to communicate with this person. And I said, no, actually, what I'm doing is I assimilated what I read and I'm thinking ahead. Many times leaders will be misunderstood before they are understood because leaders frequently are thinking well ahead of some other people. We are thinking beyond what the now situation is, and we are thinking about what can be. And many of us are solution providers. Now, I will tell you in the context of my wife, Marty, she will frequently tell me, just, I'm not asking you to provide a solution. I just want you to listen. But when we're outside of that kind of environment, that leaders will be frequently misunderstood before they are understood. From my perspective, Ed, that's because many times leaders are thinking ahead. They will devise solutions too. They're able to see some things before others see that. I have had people tell me later, Ron, I misunderstood what you said, but now I see where you're coming from. And so that is a context in which I make that statement, Ed.
Thank you for getting into that. As you could see, audience, we have a lot to talk about. And Ron Cooper and I are going to be doing this practically every week between now and the end of the year and maybe beyond. And we welcome you to tune in. There's never a toll gate for Global Business News TV. Always global free access, 24/7, 365. We love sponsors and partners and members, of course. We have bills to pay. So, Ron, I thank you very much for being involved in the Global Press Club. And as we come to a quick close here, number 29, steel, not thievery, but strength, steel, Steel, or Neil. That's intriguing. I mean, that sounds like it's a movie title.
Well, I'm going to introduce a little bit of a spiritual topic here. So for your listeners who don't like this, please just bear with me a moment. But steel has a lot to do, the STEEL type steel has to do with strength, resolve, commitment. And I think of that as the Top Gun mindset that, yep, I'm as strong as steel in going forward with my resolve, with the decision I'm making. I am totally accountable to you. I'm responsible for the decision I make. The Kneel part, KNEEL, is the compassionate part. Now, I know that some people might say, and my wife jokingly, when I was flying and had my annual flight physical, she would jokingly tell the flight surgeon not to even look for a heart or anything related to it because this guy doesn't have one. But I say that, Ed, in a joking fashion that, and I want compare and contrast. Can we speak with resolve? Can leaders speak with a very confident resolve, but yet have compassion for those that might not be a benefit from the decision we make? I want to kneel, and quite honestly, I do want to kneel in prayer, and I want to seek the Lord's advice and wisdom to move forward in making decisions. But I want to be known as being very compassionate for those I lead, that the decision may necessarily not be a positive impact on you. I would hope it would be, but I want to take care of you. I care about you. And so there could be a short term loss for a long term gain in whatever decision I make. But I want to be compassionate enough that I speak with everyone to let them know I genuinely care about them. That is the steel, talking and speaking with a confident resolve, but yet the kneel part, compassion with a person to know that you may not agree with the decision I make, or you're going to sense the maybe short-term negative impact, but I'm staying with you. That I want you to know I do know the impact of my decision on you. That's the context in which that topic, steel or kneel.
I love that. And I believe in God and I pray frequently.
Great. We do as well.
Amen. Thanks. Be back to you soon. Thank you, Ron.
Thank you, Ed.
Thank you.